All right, we're doing episode 52, Three Bros Podcast. Everybody
52!
Back. And
wow, great enthusiasm.
Everybody got triggered this week, which is good. So there's a lot to talk about.
I feel like you always open with
when
that.
you say that.
Yeah.
A lot to talk about. Listen, I love that saying. Trigger is wonderful.
I prefer to think
Listen,
of
if you
it.
got it. Sure. Go ahead.
I prefer to think that we're over opinionated and underinformed, but we're never triggered.
So we're never taking ourselves seriously. So who cares? One.
Sure.
But also two, you got to own these terms that like the idiots of the day try to like use and weaponize. So like when I hear snowflake, like I get snowflakey about things. Of course I do. Like, yes, I absolutely, everybody does. So
Would you say libtard?
No, that gets a little aggressive.
Does it? Okay.
Because if it's not something that you can apply to both sides, then I'm not supportive of it. If it doesn't make fun of both sides. So when you say someone's a snowflake, dude, conservatives get snowflakey about things. Liberals get snowflakey about things. You get snowflakey about things.
Got libtard. You've also got conservatard.
So, all right, way to take the train and just throw it on a different set of rails. But we're going back to the original. The first one we're going to talk about is, so I got a little triggered over, and I actually read this today, this article in The Hill about how the federal deficit has soared 32% to $895 billion. So, who knew that when you cut taxes, spend gobs of money you don't have on defense, the deficit would grow? I didn't. They couldn't have called me and asked me about that. But the thing that makes me upset is, of course, we always hear that cutting taxes is somehow going to reduce the deficit. That is a part of the lie. That's just what I get super mad about. Like, here we go. You know, we were told once again, oh, you cut taxes and the deficit will go down because the economy is going to get so much bigger somehow, or bigger to such an extent that your revenue goes up, even though you're literally cutting your own revenue. And this is a freaking good economy. If we had a recession, which when you cut taxes, it's typical to see a boom bust soon after. So you'll get a lot of boom from the initial cut of the taxes, but you're going to have a bust eventually, or a recession of some sort. So
yeah, but isn't that the natural cycle of capitalism, to have boom busts?
Okay, sure, but you're fighting against that. So does anybody actually want the full effects of booms and busts? No, of course not. That's ridiculous. So you're fighting against like that, because we should have had a bigger bust than we did in 2009, but you know, we bailed out a lot of those companies and those sectors of industry. So what? Whoever was the sitting president was supposed to what? Just like not bail them out and let everything fall apart? Is that what you're saying? Is that why you're tricking that there?
No, I mean, one of the things that I chirp at specifically is the role of the government is to do what they can to stymie the busts, and the role of capitalism is to do what they can to continue the boom as much as possible, right? And I think the idea of cutting taxes in theory works if given the opportunity to run its course. So if you did this for a decade, you would see boom busts that would be, I think, sustainable. The problem is that we'll never be able to be in a position to allow that ever to happen.
Well, you could also argue that the bigger the boom, the bigger the bust.
For sure.
You don't necessarily want huge gains and then huge losses, because that's just as chaotic as opposed to just no gains at all.
Yeah.
Yeah,
right?
no,
so you
I
want to
mean,
minimize you want to not minimize, but
and can we just
regulate
put to
the
bed?
boom,
We need to put to bed the
soften
myth.
bust.
Oh, sure. We need to put to bed the myth that you cut taxes and the deficit somehow is going to shrink. That is not the case, especially if you don't cut spending. Not only don't you cut spending, you spend gobs more money on defense. Gobs more money. Something like $100 billion more next year. Like,
is
Jesus
that
Christ.
directly correlated to like cutting taxes? I don't think that is. I think
You are literally cutting your revenue and then spending more. So
no,
yes.
I get what
Sure,
you're
go ahead.
saying, but
Yes.
in this case, and I mean, I guess I should probably reread this specifically, but they're doing both increasing spending and cutting taxes, which is not typically what
right, which is
conservatives do, right? Typically, they want to cut taxes as well as cut.
Listen, I loathe to blame
government costs, right?
Right. I loathe to blame it on conservatives. I also feel myself that government can be smaller, and I'm not a conservative. But I loathe to just blame it on conservatives. I blame the tax cuts on conservatives. Yes, I absolutely do. Those are dumb. And cut taxes for working people. Thank you very much. But as far as the bipartisan, it was I just said it. When I think it says, maybe it did it say in the Hill article, maybe not. Maybe there was a link in it, but no, the omnibus spending package was bipartisan. Everybody's at fault, except for like maybe the Rand Pauls and Bernies that didn't vote for it, and good for them. So no, I loathe to blame it on anybody. It's just we spend more, and then we cut taxes for absolutely no good reason. No good reason. And look, if you want to cut taxes, fine. Cut taxes on actual working people. Like, I don't understand. What do you need to cut taxes on haves for? Anyways, that's a slippery slope.
But what's our debt right now? I mean,
it's large.
22 almost trillion.
Well, and we've what?
At what point do we see repercussions when we keep borrowing like this?
There's not really any direct repercussions from the debt from everything that I've read and consumed over the years as far as the discussion around this. It's more just it's when you have such a huge deficit, it's more a risk for the economy, for like a recession looming.
Right. Okay.
Or like something bad happen, like just having a big recession, or like, so right now they cut, and I should source this, but I'm not gonna, and I apologize. You're just gonna have to Google it. But from what I've been reading since they cut the taxes, a lot of corporations are choosing to use a lot of that money to buy back stock, not actually reinvest it in the company, right? So executive pay is a lot of times tied to stock price. So these companies are getting big windfalls of cash, and they're saying, okay, we're not going to reinvest it as much in our business because we're just going to pump up the value of our stock by buying a lot of it back. So they're pumping up the value by like buying back stock. Mm-hmm. And so like there's less after you buy that back, right? Now these executives are making more because of it. The stock price goes up, but you're inflating, right? The idea is like you're inflating the stock price. Like something happened that otherwise wouldn't have, and now you're just pumping the stock price up. And so like
that's only
this is where we need another expert. Sure, this is where we need. We always get to a point in the conversation. Me and Chad did this last week where we need an expert to come in. I needed someone to come in and be like, okay, well, in layman's terms, tell me exactly what happens and what the risk is, because there's some sort of risk there. I don't know how much it is, but anyways, also along the way we talk about how the money that most of the money that the tax cuts are going to is stock buybacks and not worker compensation. Not cool. But yeah, my ultimate problem with this was just the idea that like, we can now put to bed, and of course we're not going to, because I'm going to hear in the future again, that tax cuts somehow cut the deficit. They do not. They just do not. It's not how that works. Well, literally cutting your revenue does not somehow make revenue go up. So
no, but I think again, I reiterate that the way it's supposed to work for conservatives is that you lower taxes as well as lower your overall budget for smaller government, less government spending.
Right.
When you don't do the second part, I absolutely agree with you.
Yeah.
That's the problem, in my opinion. If you want to call yourself a conservative, you need both parts of that equation for it to work.
I mean, has the size of the government ever actually shrunk under any type of conservative majority government in America?
That's a great question, because ever since Trump has taken office, we see a lot of these like big grandstanding, like we're cutting the red tape, and they stack up paper in a room and he like cuts a big ribbon. You know what I'm saying? But I'm always just like, what does this mean? Like, are you actually cutting regulation, or are you just being Trump? Like, I don't know. I'm not sure. Right. Because he makes a big deal and then he doesn't talk about any substance. He's just like, we're cutting. I remember he signed an executive order that said, if you want to make a regulation, you have to cut too. It's like, wait a minute, what?
That's right.
This is ridiculous. Like, this isn't how this is supposed to work. So I don't know. That's a good question. I don't really know what that means. I'm sure the EPA's regulations, and I actually read an article in the headline in the Buffalo News today because we get the paper at the branch. I read a headline in the Buffalo News that said the EPA is looking to cut regulations on how much methane you're allowed to release in the air. So they're trying to allow businesses, small businesses and mid-sized businesses to release more methane in the air. I didn't really read the article. I just saw the headline, so I don't really know who that affects here in Buffalo, but
Right.
so small stuff like that I'm sure is happening, and just the rhetoric that comes out of that came out of Obama's EPA compared to Trump's EPA is pretty night and day. Not that means anything for policy, because you do have to follow what actually happens, but I mean, one can assume stuff's getting cut in some way,
Wow.
So, and this is where we always debate and where the touchy area always is. It's like, well, is it government overreach? Is it not? Like, well, I don't know. Like, we have to trust the actual regulators. We actually have to, because what's the alternative? Never trust the regulators? That's
we have to trust the people who are inside Trump's government writing op-eds for the New York Times.
Oh, geez. Yeah.
Which goes into
that's
my
a good transition. Yeah, that's a good transition.
Restricting his agenda.
What does it mean? Like, obviously there's critical reaction from a lot of people, including former President Barack Obama. Is this how democracy is to be run? Is this the way that things should happen? Should you have essentially covert people inside an administration doing things to actively undermine an administration? Because the way that I see it, whether we like it or not, we as a country, given what rules were put in place, voted Donald Trump in as the president. Should we be allowing people to quote unquote infiltrate the government? Because that's really kind of what's happening, right? If you're saying me and a bunch of other people are actively trying to prevent Donald Trump from executing his plan that technically we as the people voted for, I mean, what does that mean for us as a whole? Some people would look at that and say that's essentially treason. Obviously it's an extreme, viewpoint, but I wanted to get your guys' input on what that means to you.
Well, here's the thing. If you're a great leader and all the people you picked and you don't rely on a lot of other people doing the picking of people for you, you would have a pretty tight ship. I mean, I don't think... When was the last time we've seen an administration that has had so many leaks from inside? Especially from his own cabinet, like inside his own council. It's crazy.
Yeah, no,
right? Wouldn't that suggest that Trump is bad at picking the people he should surround himself with?
Yep.
And I think also he the kind of character that he is, the kind of person he is, he creates just I can't even explain it anyway, but like a fake trust. It just like creates like a dog eat dog mentality in the world inside the White House, right? Like it's not a team mentality at all. It's just the way that he leads, just
right.
It's nuts, dude. And I've read, we've read reports. I mean, I feel like they're getting more valid every time we read one of these things. But early on, we read a lot of reports where like he liked to pit his advisors against each other and like let them like duke it out. I'm like, what is going on? I'm like, what? Like, is that real?
It's a little weird.
And he appointed it was a senior cabinet member. It's definitely an appointed position who wrote this article. So like you appointed them.
Right.
So
Caleb, I mean,
be a better person, be a better leader, earn respect more. Don't be a petulant child, and you might not have as many leaks and as many people doing stuff like this. Like, go ahead.
Rand Paul brought up running lie detector tests.
That's so dumb.
No, I know. I was like, what?
There's no scientific validity,
right?
To
I have a lot of respect.
lie
There's not
detector
good
tests.
science. Yeah, there's not good science.
If there's not good science, there's no science.
Well,
Until there's good science.
There's mixed science. They're like it works sometimes, but again,
I think overall, to say sometimes and then to use that as your reliability method is fuck off.
Sure, which is why it's what?
Well,
No, I'm saying to those people, like if that's your
Oh,
it
sure.
works sometimes, but we're gonna use this as
Oh, right.
no fuck.
So
That's
I- and I-
ridiculous.
And I just want to insert this comment. real quick here.
Go for it.
I really, truly, when we talk about stuff like this, we're not keeping our eye on the ball. I really, truly do not care if there's some people inside the White House who think they're saving America from itself. I think if you actually want a legit opinion on something that we shouldn't be talking about, I would say that person should resign and speak out against Trump. I don't know why they don't. I don't know, who they. This feels like grandstanding to me a little bit, right? But at the end of the day, like, Jesus Christ, like, I read headlines in actual good news sources to this day, like a newspaper, Buffalo News this morning, and the headlines, hey, the Trump administration might roll back and let people just pump methane in the air. It's like, damn, dude, like, what the hell? Like, what is going on here? And then you just like turn on any kind of talk anything, TV, radio, or it's all about just like, who is it? And then like I see these articles online. The internet thinks it's Mike Pence. I'm like, the internet needs to focus on how they're getting swindled out a lot of money with income inequality these days. What is going on? Keep your eye on the ball. Jesus.
Well, that's never going to happen. Like, we're not going to keep our eye on the ball. It's just not.
It's not helpful. Yeah, it's not helpful when our leadership just like feeds off the drama too.
Oh yeah,
makes me sick when specifically what I mean by that these days. It makes me sick when any politician uses identity politics in any way to like get votes. It's like, come on, dude. Like, stop. We just need to stop. Ugh. So I've said frequently on this.
Need to stop.
I've said, yeah, right. I've said frequently on this pod though that like Trump won because he was populist on economic issues. And Hillary lost because she was so damn focused on identity issues.
Right.
It's like, oh my God, girl, get it together.
Well, that was her
like
whole
Bernie
platform.
Sanders. It lost.
Yeah.
Jesus. I wouldn't even want her to because she's fake. I just feel like Bernie's real. Go ahead.
I'm still convinced that Trump mostly won because a lot of people voted for not Hillary. But that's just me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see that there's a valid reason otherwise.
Yeah,
right.
Sure.
Right now.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not to say that there aren't obviously diehard Trump supporters. I mean, obviously there are, but I don't know how many people are left. I mean, I don't know.
There's still a good amount.
Enough,
I don't even care.
though?
I don't even
Enough for the Trump train to sail on in 2020.
I don't even care what you think. Like, let's just talk about it and let's freaking, if we get some damn good leadership up in this joint, then we can get at least 60 to 70% of people who are level-headed enough to like, just like, I don't know, beat all these idiots on the not even extreme politics or extreme wings, but just like, sometimes I think about how much I just want government to like, and I don't really know what this looks like. This is me just complaining and thinking about stuff, but like, I just want government to like make sense. So like a good example right now, we have a hurricane barreling towards North Carolina. If said hurricane does a lot of damage and displaces a lot of people and destroys a lot of people's livelihoods and homes, then we should be replacing all that. That's where government should be helping people out, right? Mm-hmm. Straightforward. Get your home destroyed. We're going to help you get it back on your feet. We're going to help you get back to where you need to be. We're going to help rebuild your communities. That's what we're here for. That's the kind of stuff, like, the rest of it is just like, like, I just wish there was like common sense, just like straightforward approach to like, all right, they need help here, or they need help here. They need help here. Instead, we get a tug of war that spits out policies like, I don't even know, like affirmative action. Like if you actually address the war on drugs and you did a lot to address the needs of a child growing up in an inner city and like make sure that they have equality to opportunity, then you might be able to transform these communities without even having affirmative action, right? If you're doing right by the child and developing the community, It's
right.
Like if we actually solve the problem at the source
after the fact,
right? feels like more of a problem solving at the source kind of thing.
Well, that's how I feel. That's why I always felt on the fence about free tuition in New York State for SUNY schools.
Yeah.
I was like, I feel like we have a lot more issues to deal with on our public education level first before we even try and address higher education.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Yeah, and I feel like I agree. See, I mean, I think me and you think more outside the box on these things. We think more radically, probably, and I would say Caleb too, definitely. Because like if I could really just like go at the education system, like, why do we need to have like 4 years of extra paid schooling that you have to like drag your feet through, and like you have to take some classes that you're not motivated about, and you're just looking for that C. I know I've been there many times. Okay,
Sure.
so it's like we can't just figure this out where like you get a high level education in 2 years after you're done with high school, and you just focus a lot more on like let's use high school time a little bit more
Effectively.
Yeah, effectively. There you go.
A bit more targeted.
Sure. There you go.
Yeah.
So just like, yeah, okay, beat in these kids basic stuff for a long time. I understand that, the basics are very important, but by the time you finish up sophomore year of high school, like, come on. Like, let's go. Let's start targeting these kids' education. Let's motivate them by actually putting them where they want to be. You know what I'm saying? Like, holy shit.
Mm.
Everybody bitches about like these kids don't pay attention. All right, well, then we need to start targeting better. We need to start like coming up with better ways to get them to pay attention. Like all these old fashioned rules, just like I saw an article today and I should post it, but some school in some elementary school in the backwoods of Georgia is sent a letter home with every kid in an elementary school to their parents that the parents could sign and give the school permission to paddle their children to discipline them.
I saw that. Yeah.
You saw that stuff? I'm like, I don't know how I feel about this. Like,
apparently Georgia is one of 20 states that have some form of capital punishment legal or available to be used in public schools.
We can't figure out how to like get our kids in situations where they don't need to be paddled. Of course, some kids are going to act out, no doubt, but I don't even care about the kids that act out. I'm more talking about because me, you, and Caleb, I know we were all this student. I'm talking about the kind of student that like doesn't act out, but just like sits in class, but isn't engaged at all. Just learns nothing, and it's a waste of time for being there. Like I know your guys' intellect levels, and I know what you're interested in. I bet you like every single history class in high school was super easy, just because it was like. For me, it just came naturally to me.
Just naturally fascinating.
Yeah, I was actually interested in it. So when I read it, I retained it because I was interested in it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I didn't have to jam it in my head. So, and that's why I ended up being a math major too. It's just like math came easier to me. It was a little more interesting to me to like go through problem solving things.
Right.
And that kept my attention more. And I was like, all right, well, this is what I should do. I don't know. We can do better.
We can do better. Wow.
Well, I just like that's what I'm saying. Like, you think more outside the box. I want to radically change the system. These like little pitter patter things are tough.
Japan thinks we can do better.
Oh, I'm sure we can. I'm sure Japan can do better too, though. They can fuck off. They can relax.
Japan
look in the mirror,
it's
Japan.
Time to allow sustainable whaling is what they say.
Oh, good roll into that. And go ahead and introduce us to it if you want.
Yeah. So, and I actually was not aware of this, but commercial whaling has been effectively banned for more than 30 years.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now, it says in the article they still whale, but go ahead.
You've never seen Whale Wars? Come on.
I do remember watching Whale Wars, which is why I was under the impression of something else, but
it must be like drastically cut back.
Well, so Japan catches 20, what did it say? Up to, it was like a couple hundred whales they catch a year and they kill for quote unquote science studies.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of this
300 to 400 animals each year.
There you go. A lot of this meat does end up in markets still.
Sure.
And traditionally, in terms of culture, I think it said Norway, Japan, and what was it, Iceland?
Yes.
Whaling has sort of been a huge part of their culture, so they're arguing that they should be allowed to whale and that there are sustainable species of whale that they could start hunting. I don't know. I read it at the time. I thought it was interesting. It's kind of like
Dude, it definitely is. Now, what do you? I mean,
under the radar kind of conversation right now because there's so much ridiculous things
What were
going
your
on.
initial thoughts? Like, what'd you think?
I don't know. I sort of was thinking about the. I mean, I don't know the ethical nature of hunting whales. I suppose.
Yeah, I was thinking along the same lines. So what I was thinking was like, if we can figure out a level where we can hunt some whales, but also like sustain a population healthily, so that it's not like, you know, doing too much damage to ecosystems. And like, I really don't care. Like, there's a part in this article I screenshotted the quote. Lars Wallow, former head of Norway's delegation to the IWC, told the BBC whaling is the same as killing other large mammals in the forest like deer, elk, and moose. And like, I don't disagree with that.
Right.
So my thing would be you need to have like and some people may cringe at this, but you need some sort of regulating force, just making sure that like they're not over whaling.
Whale wars.
Because it's easy.
I don't think people cringe at that though, Cyril. Like, they don't cringe at the idea.
Well, I do a little bit. I kind of even do a little
Why?
bit. So
here's where I feel like I can speak a lot on this, and just from being, you know, a hunter for the past few years now, I can tell you the impact of having proper and sustainable regulatory agencies in place to make sure that you're just not fucking killing things to extinction is extremely important.
No, I'm about it. Yeah.
If and for me, this is the catch-22, right? If hunting those whales and the money that's made from those whales is paid back into a system where we can have and hire scientists and boats and whatever it is that they need to make sure that they can effectively count and maintain a population of whales, I'm okay with it.
Wow.
And I'm also the same way, whether people like it or not, when it comes with
about big game hunting in Africa. Very
100%.
It's
that's where I was about to go. I feel the same
figured.
way when it comes to big game hunting in Africa, or quite frankly, any other place on Earth. If it is not extinct and if it can be sustainable and you can prove it scientifically with proper wildlife management, I don't see the problem with it.
Just keep a couple zoologists on staff.
Not a couple. I mean, you have to think. Here's the thing, though, and I think this is.
Wait. Oh, go ahead.
This is the hurdle I think that you face when you institute something like whale hunting, right? There isn't anything in place that is sustainable. There is no governing body to make sure that this is being done properly.
Sea Shepherd.
Well, I mean, they're just flat out anti-whaling, which I get why you are that way, and I certainly don't want to. Sit there and say that you are wrong, right? My opinion specifically is that if we can build a sustainable model, just like we have here in America, we have we have the best big game hunting in the world. Period. There is no competition. Maybe as far as species, obviously, people want to hunt elephants, shit like that. We don't have elephants here, but if we still had woolly mammoths here, we would have a management strategy in place, I guarantee you, to hunt them and effectively make sure that the culling of the herd is appropriate. You know, one of the big things when it comes to deer hunting and moose hunting, you're looking for the oldest animal. You're not looking for the babies. You're not looking to kill off a bunch of does that were just born a spring ago.
Right.
You're looking for the biggest deer that you can find, because the biggest deer means what? It is the oldest deer. And it's okay to, in my opinion, again, this is strictly my opinion,
out there pumping babies out, dude.
It's already done 2 or 3 years of pumping babies out.
Sure.
You know, it's done its service to nature, and now it's time for us to harvest it. You know, that's how you get this model.
How do you feel about horse meat, Caleb?
Listen, I don't even have a problem with that. I truly don't.
Horse
I don't
meat?
understand. Oh, wait, what?
I think
I'll try horse meat.
I said horse meat.
I'll try some.
I think.
Does that
go ahead?
Put in a different light?
No,
because is horse meat? Because I feel like horse meat is typically where people are like, yeah, that's a little. Why would you kill a horse for its meat?
Okay,
right, but if it was sustainable,
but how much of that, Chad? And what I would argue there is how much of that has to do with the current system we have in place, we don't have a need for horse meat, right? There isn't one. We have an insane, and some might argue extremely dangerous agriculture system in place to have all the beef and pork and chicken that you want. There's no need to go after a horse. If we were in a survival situation and there was a horse, yeah, you're damn right I would eat fucking horse.
You're definitely eating it. You're
100%.
But I also think
when you
horse isn't conducive to, it doesn't have a lot of meat on it. I think I read somewhere. Like,
what?
I don't know. As much as like other animals, as far as domestication. No, as far as domestication and like consumption. Like nobody chose horses when they started because like there was better options, like a cow.
I bet you the meat's not that great. I bet you it's because
something like
horses are like
I don't know.
ripped. They're jacked mammals that the meat
Once
is
again,
so
we're not
goddamn
sourcing
tough.
It's probably a tough
Just
meat.
don't need to Google it.
It's gonna be a tough meat.
It's probably super lean. You know, there are people out there that don't like super lean meat. They don't like rabbit. They don't like venison because it's just really lean meat.
Listen, there's a YouTube channel.
I get that.
There's a YouTube channel with a young guy that's devoted to reviewing fast food. Okay, you can probably find someone that chews on some horse online. Watch it.
Are you talking about that guy that wears those like 5-piece suits?
Yeah, while you
yeah.
In front of his grandmother's China hutch.
Yeah. I'm glad we've all been in that same corner of the internet.
Oh, for sure.
I don't have. Dude. I think you have an argument. I think you have an argument if you try to like kill and eat like a primate and you're not in like a forced situation. So that gets weird. Weird.
I will push back on that.
Or a fellow human.
Human, yes, I'm with you.
Nice.
Okay, you would still eat them if you somehow came across it and it just died and it was fresh and you could eat it. Like go for it.
Probably.
So eat a human, you could. Yeah, it's fucking dead. They're dead. They're fucking dead. Go ahead, Caleb.
What?
Oh boy, that's a tough one. I would have to be in some dire straits.
I am not. This isn't. Don't twist me.
All right,
here.
let's set the scene, Cyril.
And maybe I didn't do this right. Hang on, I didn't do this right. Stop.
Cyril,
that's not what stage
right.
First of all,
comes across
wild
as a human being.
Wild exaggeration. No. Let's get this right. Would I do it?
Get it right.
In reality, and I think about it right now. No, I probably wouldn't. But like in practicality, which is what I thought we were talking about. Like you could eat a human being. Yes, you can. In practicality. Like, so I don't think I would, but
no, I'm saying you.
So to me, hold on. When you talk about primates, let's go back to primates because eating humans, like that's a whole other discussion. We can all.
I'll let you.
I think that's fair.
Eating a primate, though, I think a lot of that has to do with culture, right? So there's a show that I watched. It's called Meat Eater, gentleman by the name of Steven Ranella, and I think it was like in the 5th or 6th season that he did. He went to Bolivia. Really good show. It's on Netflix. I think season 5 and 6 is on Netflix. Free plug. Not that anybody listens to this bullshit, but anyway.
Oh, sure.
When you watch it's a 3-part episode. There's 3 episodes for just him in Bolivia, and he talks about specifically how he felt when he went with this indigenous group, the Chumane. That's the name of the group, and they hunted a monkey. I believe it was like a tapir of some sort. We'd have to double check, but anyway, they hunt this monkey.
Sure.
They cook it. They prep it. They do everything with it, and in the whole time he's talking about how uncomfortable it is for him because he comes from a society in which it is taboo to eat something that is so closely related on the tree of life to humans, right? And he goes and he says, you know what? I'm here. I want to be a part of these people. I want to experience that they experience. I'm going to eat this monkey the way that they eat it. He ate it and he was like, that was good as shit. If you fed this to somebody, they would have no idea this is monkey. Right? So I wonder how much of that is cultural.
So this, I would do the same thing. I would eat that monkey if I was there. What a fascinating experience. But right? B, I wasn't coming. Once again, I'm kind of coming at this from more practical. Okay, so what I mean by that is like we know, not even in a practical way, just like a modern way, right? Like we know that like sure, maybe this tribe doesn't know and they're not scientific at all and they still kind of live very primitively, but like we know that they're related to us closely, and we also know through personal interactions and studies that these monkeys like can feel and have emotions. We can never know in a similar, if it's exactly a similar way, but in like a very similar way, right? Like one has even learned our language, like 200 words of the language and sign language, and communicated. Like, so these are more complex creatures than any other animal besides us, just because of like the way everything has shook out on this planet and evolution, if you believe in that. But still, so like that's where I come from with it. Like I know that these beings have like like we don't kill each other because we respect each other's lives as human beings. Like most countries, if not all, you can't just murder, right? And so that's even something that we've had to develop over the years as we've gone from like early Homo, whatever the heck the names are, to now Homo sapien. So like I don't know, I just come from that standpoint. Like they have emotions, they're like pretty intelligent compared to the rest of life. So that gets tough for me.
If I sat here and spent
not
all
cultural
time training a pig, would you then say, well, I'm not going to eat pork?
No, but that's totally different because a pig isn't closely related to us, the most developed and intelligent beings on this planet.
Actually, pigs are...
Sure.
We're finding out that pigs are actually extremely intelligent creatures.
Okay, that's fine and fair. We can open that conversation. No, that's fine. That's fine because then if that's true,
because if it's
then that's 100%. I will concede that. I need to see many studies that reaffirm the other results of this kind of stuff. Sure. Okay. Well, I guess this is another moment here where we just tell you to Google it, which I will do.
Lightly Google.
But yeah. If pigs are the same way, then pigs are the same way. Then maybe we can rethink these things.
How would we feel about eating dolphin? You know what I mean? Dolphins are extremely intelligent creatures.
Sure. Yeah, I would. I guess I would say I'm mixed. I'm in a gray area where if I was in a culture that did that, I would not. I hate being preachy about anything, unless it does come to human on human violence. There's no way I'll be preachy about that. I'll be like, yeah, you can't murder people. That's ridiculous.
Did you lightly Google those two?
Lately, no, I'm going to do that later. Talk to me later, not right now. But
pigs are actually considered the fifth most intelligent animal.
Look, if I was in a culture that did that, and I would not disrespect, I would not preach, I would take part in feasting on monkey, as it sounded like Caleb would, and I assume you probably would too, Chad.
I'd just be afraid of like getting some brain neurodegenerative disease.
Is that
just because they are so closely related to us? I mean, it's not hard for.
You know what's funny
that affects monkeys is
you're probably more likely to get some shitty stuff from a bear than you are a monkey.
I mean, I'm gonna have to see the numbers on that. So,
go ahead, undercook. If you don't do bear well done, I can almost 98% guarantee that you will get trichinosis.
Yeah, but have you ever eaten raw monkey brain?
I have not, but. Are there not cultures that eat monkey brains?
I don't think that's a very common thing. Might be. I don't know, man. It might be.
Pixar didn't happen, bro.
You want pics that it is a common practice?
Well, you know what I mean.
No, I will. Going back to Chad's article, though, just like for real, I totally support like some sort of independent entity of. Not activists and people who just like love animals, but like a separate entity of trained, motivated, highly intelligent, like doctoral students in like is it zoology fields. I don't know. I'm probably saying it's stupid, but those fields, like fields of animal studies, specifically whale studies, get a bunch of those guys together, create an independent, check on. Just in case there's some sort of runaway greed and they start like whaling too much or whatever, and just balance the system out. And there you go. Right. I don't think this is that hard. This is 2018.
No, I agree. I mean, sustainable is key there, obviously. If it's sustainable, then how can you really?
Yeah. I also think that would be popular with the public because like you're not like just like banding together a bunch of activists. And there's nothing wrong with activism. I'm not here to disparage activism. I'm talking about real people who like trained for years because they were motivated, and they're motivated to like have real true knowledge in the field. Those are the people that I want in an independent council, studying things and making sure the balance is good and making sure like this year it's this number, this year it's this number, like that just makes a lot of sense. I don't know why anybody would oppose that. So get on that.
I don't know. I'm not sure why I don't know. I guess it was just interesting because I didn't even know this conversation was taking place. So I guess I just posted it.
One of these days when people actually start listening, there's going to be a trickle of comments of like, I think about what I just said, and it's going to be trickle comments of like, they're already regulating bodies. They're there, and there. Look them up. I'm gonna be like, okay.
Actually, this article itself does quote.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm gonna be like, cool, nice.
We
stumbled upon
the International Whaling Committee.
See, but is that activists or like all scientists? That's what I'm saying.
No, that's an agreement between countries on paper about.
There you go. And countries probably provide
whaling. Yeah,
top
in 1986, members agreed to a moratorium on hunting to allow whale stocks to recover.
Mm-hmm.
And when you allow those stocks to recover, that's when you're able to get that documentation to figure out what is a sustainable and a healthy amount of said whales. Like that would be the goal. But I think at the same time, like Japan is undermining the ability for us to actually get to the point of sustainability. That's the problem, I think.
Well, yeah, right. But
if you can get Japan to agree to a 10-year moratorium and say, look, legit, come on, you got to stop killing these whales for a few years so that we can figure out what the appropriate level of sustainability is. That's the problem, I think, right now that they're facing.
That is actually mentioned in the article.
We do what we want. And when you have a country go rogue and do that,
it says it in the article. I mean, they're still, like, I guess, under the guise of research, they're still hunting.
Right, scientific research.
Right, but apparently it says, today whale stocks are carefully monitored, and while most species are still endangered, others, like the minke whale, which Japan primarily hunts, are not. So there you go. It's the minke whale. Apparently it's
there you go.
Not an endangered whale species.
So, cool. There's regulation bodies.
There you go.
Some of these species are off the endangered list. Look at this. Smiles all around. There you go. Some people still get to eat their whale.
Well, there's still plastic in the ocean, but we're working on it.
Well, yeah, I know. I saw a lot of articles this week about how they finally started up the first full-scale cleanup there.
Listen, when you go to your favorite fast food restaurant or your coffee shop, be sure to make sure that you don't have any straws.
Any straws, any plastic lids.
That's the big thing right now, right? If I'm not mistaken. Like, don't get a straw.
What?
Straws and plastic lids.
Do what you want. Just put it in the garbage.
They're not recyclable, Cyril.
Listen,
you're ending up in the ocean, bro.
Listen. Yeah, but putting it in the garbage is the problem. Like, we can't have that dispensable attitude towards plastic anymore.
Okay,
well, it's true.
Then what's your solution? That's the first thing I would say to whoever's saying it.
You have to find a material that will replace plastic, or you outlaw plastic and force people to pay a little bit more on their straws and their lids.
Oh, go ahead, Chad.
I'm saying it's one or the other. Either science needs to catch up, or the government needs to say, "Stop! Don't use plastic like this anymore. It's clearly horrible for the environment."
Are you guys trolling me?
No.
What?
Not even a little bit.
You know what's worse than plastic straws? Cigarette butts. Why are we talking about plastic straws?
Because plastic straws end up in the ocean apparently a lot easier than anything else.
Oh, stop.
I'm serious.
I'm sure the fiberglass is an issue too, but I think we would probably. I think it's easy to argue though that there's a way bigger problem with plastic than there is with cigarette butts. You know how much plastic we go through? Just saying.
I'm sure.
Just saying.
I'm sure. I just come on now.
Ditch your straw, man. Stop being selfish.
Listen, we'll science our way out of it. Get your straw. We'll be fine.
I'm so sick of you saying that.
Put it in the garbage.
That's such a bullshit attitude.
Don't throw it on the ground, at least. Just put it in the garbage. When I smoke a cigarette, I throw the butt away. Every time.
What does that change, though, between on the street or in a landfill? It's still being produced.
Nothing right now, but we'll science our way out of it. Listen, it's future. Listen, I rely on future breakthroughs. Never forget it. I've been very consistent with this position on the pod.
I know you're not wrong, but it's also like, oh, God.
That's what I also say to you every time, too. Like, if I can get serious, like,
science the way out of it.
What are we going to do? Overnight, figure out how to stop using all this oil and stuff? No, all we can do is slowly wean our way off it. We're getting there. Things are popping up that are good. It might be too slow. We might ruin ourselves. Oh, well, what are you going to do? Just, like, tell everyone to stop and, like, tomorrow stop using oil and gas? Like, come on. Don't play. Don't play. So
I'm
listen,
all about the Daniel Tosh method.
we better hope
believe-
to God we science our way out of it, and I just say it to stay positive. That's where that
believe
comes
the
from.
Daniel Tosh method was everybody stops having kids immediately. And then for the next 70 to 90 years, we just piss through all of the natural resources, having the most ridiculous party.
Let's go.
And then that's it.
What
and
a
then,
bad idea,
dude. we just
Sometimes
leave
I'm
the
like,
planet
gosh,
behind.
that's-
Yeah.
All right, on that one, we should end that. Oh my goodness.
On that note,
While we
that'll
just
be
pee
my
away the planet.
2034 presidential platform.